Hey guys, this is the video for the critter character we've been doing in class. Just going through the entire process of actually modelling it, and there might be a video for the actual texturing phase, but we're going to go into quite a bit of depth about texturing in the lesson. So this is just the actual modelling phase, the fun phase. So straight off the bat, what I always want to do for every project is make a new project, or for every model is make a new project. So I'm going to go to File, Project window, so bring up our project window where we can choose what to name our project and where to locate it. So I'm going to call this Fripp, and I'm going to dump that on my desktop. You'd dump this on either your desktop and then your pen drive or your hard drive or whatever. So I'm just going to put mine on my desktop, and then I'm going to go to accept. That obviously then builds our project. So what I'm also going to do is just be super safe about where I'm going to be saving. I'll actually go to File again, down to Set Project, and then find my project inside my area where I chose to put it. So I've just got Fripp here, and then I'm going to just set that project. That's just us making doubly sure that Maya is understanding where we want to save some stuff. Excuse me. So first off, we want to bring our actual reference images into the scene. The reference images are going to be on the VLE for you guys inside your course project stack. So I've already got mine saved to my desktop, so I'm going to bring in my images. So this is my project folder, so this is all our folders inside that project. I'm going to bring those two images, so the front and the side view of the critter, or Fripp, and I'm going to copy them into the source images folder right here, into the source images. That's where Maya will always want to read any sort of reference images that we've got in the scene. It'll always want to pull it from here. So it's very important that we have the images inside our source images folder. So there we got critter front and critter side. Cool. Now to actually add images into the scene, it's very easy. Because it's all just done by view, image plane, and import image, and then that'll take us to source images. So that's where we put our images. But what we don't want to put the image into this view. This is the perspective view. Obviously, this is the view where we can actually tumble around our object and pan and zoom and all that. We don't want to put it into here. We want to put the frames into the corresponding angles or viewports. So I'm going to just tap space, take it to my foreview. So these are all broken down into my top is the top left, perspective is the top right, bottom left is front, and bottom right is side. Now we don't have a top view, we don't have a perspective view, so we only have a front and a side. So I'm going to go to each one of these viewports, and you can see that in the top of each one of them they've got view, shading, lighting, show, render, and panels. So those are actually ways we can actually change the way each individual viewport renders or looks or whatever. There's quite a lot of customizability to these viewports, but I'm going to go to view. So I'm actually going to add my front view in first, so the view looking at our character in the face. So I'm going to go to view, down to image plane, and then import image. And then that'll take us to my source images folder, and I'm going to put my front view in there. Let's put that in. And you can see there that our front view has now been added in. And then in a side view, we do the exact same thing, but just import the side image. Like that. And then you can see here, I'll just hover my mouse over the perspective window and just tap space to make it bigger. And then you can see here that we've got this sort of cross image thing of both our reference images, like that. Now there's a couple of things we're going to have to do before we actually kick off modelling, and that's just to make these a little bit bigger and to move them about a bit, because they're a bit too small, I'd say. By default, every one of these small grey squares is a centimetre, so he's only going to be about 15 centimetres high. In real world logic, that'd probably be okay, but because we want to have as much sort of room to work with when we're modelling, I'm just going to make these quite big, and I'm going to actually make them to fit the grid themselves. The other thing is that he's stood, so half the world is cutting him in half. The grid's going through his centre. And one of the rules I always try and get people to work to is, if you're doing anything with something which is going to be stood on the floor, have that character or that object stood on the floor. Again, it's just easier to work off. You can use the grid as a level playing field to actually model everything off, and it's just easy to work. And also you can make sure that instead of modelling down and up, you're only ever modelling up off the floor, and you're not worried about any sort of misalignments or anything. And we don't want them sat with this sort of cross either. We want them separated from each other. So I'll do that last. Okay, so first I'm just going to click both the images. I'm going to shift click to select both of the images. So click one, you can see there it's got the green border. I'm going to hold shift and click on the other one. There we go, so that's both of them selected. I'm going to go to my scale tool, pressing R, and then I'm just going to scale it up so that it's nice and big. I'm going to go to about that big. Now I'm not going to click off, but I'm going to press W for my translate tool. So that's our movement tool. Remember that we need to be referencing, or we need to be naming stuff like translate instead of move. So I'm going to just translate that up in the Y-axis, so then he's stood on top of the world. And I'm going to take my... There is a discrepancy between the front and the side images. It's just mainly the toes are a bit too short on the front image, and they're deeper on the side image. So I'm just going to use the side image to actually level out my floor. So I'm just going to see that I've now stood on top of the world, like that, which is beautiful. Cool, and we've only got one thing to do now before moving on to actually modelling. I'm going to grab the side view, so that's the view we're looking at from the side, and I'm going to move that this way, off the grid, so backwards in the x-axis. And I'm going to grab the front view and I'm going to move it backwards in the z-axis, like that. I'm just going to do that a little bit more. That's just so we can have a little bit more room to work with, and we're not having to deal with objects that are like this. So if we're modelling something from this view, we're only ever going to see what's in this quadrant, and then we won't be able to see the entire character, which is kind of rubbish. So I'm just going to move these to the side and backwards, so I've got a nice amount of space. Again, I don't want to have them all the way back there, and I don't want to have them all the way too close. I'm just going to give myself a little bit of room to work with, like that. Cool, so now we're ready to start modelling. And just to be nice and safe and make sure that if we do mess up we can go back to a reasonable point, I'm going to make my first incremental save at this stage. So if I do mess up, then I don't have to set up the entire scene all over again. So let's go in there and call him Fripp. Just got one. Or you can call him whatever you want to do. I just chose to name our little dude Fripp. Right then. So let that save. There we go. So I'm going to start off in the side view. There we go. So to move to my side view, holding down space, clicking and holding down where it says Maya in the middle, clicking and holding down, and then this gives me access to all my different views, and I'm going to go to right view, and that's this view. Okay. So yeah, everything's going to be made out of a cube. This is something I do for 90% of the models that I make, unless it's something like a glass or something that's like explicitly cylindrical or explicitly triangular pyramid. I always start off with a cube. I find it very helpful to work very low poly first and then take it up later on. Again, it's much more about control stage by stage. So I'm going to start by adding a cube in the middle of his chest area, or the middle of his kind of like where his leg is here. So grabbing my cube, I'm holding shift and dragging one out so it's nice and big. Here we go. And I will be clicking this button up here to x-ray the model so I can see what's going on underneath it. Now, guaranteed I will forget to do this at some point along the process. When I've made this cube, it's not actually centered in the middle of the world. It kind of uses the line here as something to build off, so then you can see here that it's not actually in the center. So I don't want, so in the channel box here, you can get to the channel box by pressing this button here. I'm going to change the translate X to 0. That means that now the model is in the middle of the world. Because he's a symmetrical character, we want to make sure that we're keeping him as even as possible. And if you're working off the grid, if you're working like either positive or negative, then you've got less control. Cool. So this is my square, or my cube, and I'm going to basically outline the very basic shape of this. So obviously I can't do the super high detail stuff just yet because I'm only working with a 6-sided shape. But I'm going to just go to vertex mode, drag a selection box over the corners and just start moving them into this shape. So the top vertex is going to be at the base of the neck, the bottom vertex, at least on the left side, is going to be kind of just on the end of his stomach there. The back right upper vertex is going to be at the base of the tail, or where I would perceive the base of the tail to be. And the bottom right would be, again, where I perceive the tail to be. Let's move this one back a little bit more. There we go. And that's all we want to do for this. We want to make this shape first. At this stage, it's probably a good idea to take the front and the back faces off. Take these two off, because we're going to be welding into this character anyway, or welding other objects to this character, and this face is just going to get in the way and it's going to cause issues later on. So get rid of them. There we go. Boom. So we just got a nice empty box to deal with. Something I can do is just start it out. I mean, I know we're only dealing with now that we've taken them two faces off, a 4-sided shape. But something I can start to do now is actually outline the girth of the character as you'd see it from the top. So obviously the very back of the character where the tail is going to be thinner than the front of the body where the arms are. So what I'm going to do is just grab this back hole here and bring it in a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect just yet. It won't be perfect just yet, but I'm just trying to get as much information in as I can stage by stage. And the front, I'm going to bring in a tiny bit, just a little bit like that. Cool. Now it's time to do my favourite thing, which is do the duplicate special. So I can take off one side and then mirror it, and whatever happens on one side happens on the other. I'm just going to split the entire box in half. So I'm going to use my insert edge loop for that. So that should be in mesh tools, insert edge loop. And just make sure we're set to multiple edge loops and one, because obviously we only want to do one split. And just split the very top and the bottom like that. Okay. And now anything on the left side of my body now I can just take away. Boom, boom. Cool. So now we should be left with this half box. Cool. Now, for whatever reason, some of you might have a manipulator, a pivot point, which isn't in the center of the box or in the center of the world. That's cool. We do need to actually do this for the next stage, but it's really easy to fix that. Remember, if we hold D, that allows us to move our manipulator around without actually affecting our object. And V, I mean, I'm tapping V there, and you can see up here that one of the magnets is turning on, and that is the vertex magnet, and I'm tapping V for vertex. So a combination of them would be this pressing D or holding D allows me to move my manipulator around, and V allows me to snap it to a position. So I'm just going to snap it to one of the center bits, center vertex. Cool. Now I'm going to do my duplicate special. I'm going to do that by, with my object set in object mode. It needs to be set in object mode. Go to edit, down to duplicate special, and then the option box. And I'm just going to reset the tools here. So in geometry type, I want to have instance set, and what an instance does is basically just copies or mimics whatever happens on the other version. I can leave all this as it is. I can leave smart transition turned off, transform, sorry. And then rotate and translate I can leave alone. It's just the first box in the scale, so this box. I want to put -1 in there. -1. And when I click apply, you can see there that we've got this happening here. So anything we do on one side happens on the other, which is very cool. Now the only thing that won't happen is if I grab it in object mode and move it, the other one doesn't get affected. That's because any movement or any changes only occurs in a component mode, like vertex, face, or edge. So in vertex that works, in edge that works, in face that works, but in object unfortunately it doesn't work. So if you need to move anything forward or back for both sides, you can just grab the entire thing by face mode and then you can move it around. So just be aware of that. Right, get it back on it. I'm just going to go back to object mode. There we go. So now I'm going to go back to the right view. Oh, mine's being funny. There we go. I'm going to go back to the side view and I'm going to be adding some edges down the body, so I can start to get the hump and I can start to get the stomach in there. And then with those I can also start to outline where I'm going to be bringing my leg off. So that, again, that's super simple to do. I can use my insert edge loop and have that set to 3 this time. So I'll set it to 3 and then I can add my edges. You can see there I've got my new edges coming down inside my torso. Now I turned view wireframe on just by clicking this button, remember. It allows me to see my wireframe, it's super useful. So now I'm just going to grab these vertex and shape the body. Now it's not super perfect to the drawing, obviously, because we're dealing with a low poly character, but that's all we need. Like that. Oop. Just trying to keep it as regular as possible, the spacing between vertex as regular as possible. There you go. Perfect. Perfect. Now all I do now is grab the very top edge at the top and just bring it in a bit, just so we can start to get this triangular nature of his body, because he's a little chubby character, so we want him to have a small, where his spine is, it's smaller at the top, and then him to kind of bulge out around the bottom and then curve under his stomach. Now we'll be getting some of these curves in later on, but at the minute we just want a very blocky version. I can also start to get the girth in here as well, just like I did before. Now that I've got these 3 new edges, I can start to do that with a little bit more detail. So again, I envision this character with having a very, very fat kind of leg area here. He's chubby at the front, but then where his hind legs are, that's where it gets really, really chubby. So I'll just take a side view as a reference. Okay, so that one. This one's going to be coming way out, and then it's going to be coming in again. Oop, make sure I'm grabbing the right edges. There you go. There we go. So it might look a little bit funky at first, but don't worry. It'll all be fixed later on. Nothing should ever look finished until it's done. That's what I've always said. Until it's in the hand of the client, it's never done. Okay, so now that we've got this shape going on, we're going to move on to make the tail, because that's super easy. Same process. I'm going to go to my right view. Actually no, excuse me, yeah, sorry. I'm going to add a cube in, just for the tail, and then just like I've done before, just shape it to fit the general area. Oh, come on. My mouse is running low on battery. Now, one thing I have to stress now is I've seen a few people make tails that look like that, where they're using this bottom curve or this bottom vertex to kind of add this curve in here, and then they add edges going down the side to get the curve here. Now that gives you really negative edge flow, kind of makes it really ugly, kind of hard to deal with later on. So what I want you to do is just be aware that obviously this character's got a flow. If you thought there's like almost like an angle or a line, a rhythm that we have to follow through the entire character. So from his head, you can see this line coming down by the side. You can see it coming out the edge of his tail. We want to follow that, and we want to make sure all the faces are kind of running parallel to that. So I'm going to make sure that the very end, this face here, is facing upwards. It's facing like away from the character. So it's now facing in that direction. Now, just like I said before as well, I've forgotten to zero out my X translate. So zero that out. There we go. Oops, and I've done it. Oh, actually done it for the side view. Sorry. There we go. There we go. Okay, and that's all we need to do for our tail for the most part. But not for the most part at all. But we need to take away this inner face, because that's the face that we're going to be moulding or welding to our main body. And then from here I can just start to just get the form back in there, as well as split it in half so that I've got a duplicated special just like my torso. So using my insert edge loop, set that to 1, add that in there, and then we just got that one side. Easy peasy. Now what we're going to do, just like with the body, we're going to add some edges going down the side to give it a nice little bit of curvature, but we won't be adding 3, we'll just be adding 2, because this is a smaller surface and we don't need as much detail or that much information. So I'm going to go with my insert edge loop, change that to 2, add 2 more in, and there you can see I've got my 2 new edge loops. I can come in and start to shape to my tail. Nice. Cool. Awesome. And that's all we need to do for the initial part of the tail. I'm going to leave welding these two things together just for now until I'm going to get the neck in there first, and then I'm going to weld these together. So I'm just going to do my duplicate special as well, making sure I've got these settings set. There we go. Cool. Right, so now I'm going to make my neck, and that's made exactly the same way. I'm going to make a cube, and I'm going to shape my neck. Now, again, just like with the tail, I'm not going to make a neck which looks like this. Or anything like that, because again we're looking for flow of our character. We're looking for these edges to basically curve round and up into the head. And if I was to go and make my neck like this, what would happen is our edge flow would come round into the chest and then just repeat into itself, and we'd lose a lot of information there. We'd lose a whole lot of building information, animation information, and it would just, you know, it'd be a bad scene for a long for a long time, and we'd have to go back and fix a lot of stuff. Excuse me. So what I am going to do is set it back to a nice cube. I'm going to take the very top group of vertex and just bring it to where the neck is and make some form of neck shape here. Now this is where I need you to kind of like be very aware of what I'm doing. This bottom right vertex here, I'm going to bring that to the top of the back here. So that's more or less in line. And I'm going to take the bottom left, and I'm going to bring that all the way to the bottom of the chest, there. So now we've got this pretty horrible shape going on. It's almost like a triangle. It is still obviously a cube, but it's almost a pyramid. But if you look at that, I'll just set the translate X to 0 again. There we go. So the top face of the cube is now facing into the neck, upwards, and the bottom face of the cube is now facing into the body, that way. And that's what we want. And I can go ahead and take away the bottom and top face. So again, we've got a hollow object. And then I can just go make that fit the general shape. Again, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm just looking for a general shape at the minute. We will make this look really cool in a bit. Cool. I'm going to do the exact same things I've done before and add 4 divisions going down. But not going down this way. I'm not going down downwards. I'm going to cut across. So that's my insert edge loop. And I'm going to set this one to 4, like I said, because this is a broader area and I want a bit more curvature to it. So add those in, and then just start forming to my neck. Make sure I've got X-ray turned on, and then just form it as best I can to the back of the neck. Something like that. You know, again, I'm not looking for perfection just yet. I'm just looking for as much information as I can get out of it. Making bad shapes at this stage isn't the end of the world. And then I can cut this in half and do my duplicate special thing on it. So I will be turning on, off and on X-ray quite a lot. Just this is more for you guys, because sometimes trying to see a ghosted wireframe on these videos can be a bit tough. So I will be turning X-ray on and off quite a bit. So inserting my edge loops, set that back to 1, so it's just 1 in the middle, 1 there, and 1 there. Boom. And there we go. And then go to my edit, duplicate special, boom, we're good. And at this stage now it's time for me to start joining all these parts of the bodies together so that I can have one main body shape. Now one thing's going to happen is I've got all these selected, all one side anyway, all one side selected. When I combine these, we'll lose our duplicate special. That's only because we've basically just changed the genetic makeup of the thing we're doing, so that makes it disappear. All we have to do is go back and reduplicate and it's back. Now, I'm just going to go around and find the end vertex of each one of these separate points. So in this case I'm going to find the end vertex for the tail and the body in the center, select both of them like that, and then hit merge like that. Now what's happening is because I've got 2 vertex selected and only 2, it's just merging those 2 into the middle point, the middle distance between those 2 vertex. So I'll do it again on these 2. I've only got these 2 selected. This over here is just mimicking what I'm doing on this side. Hit merge, and then it merges them, which is very cool. If I had more than 2 selected and try merging, it won't work that way because it's got many middle distances. And the threshold, the distance threshold, is looking for 0.0001 unit of distance, so very small distance. If I was to up this threshold, it would eventually start to collapse on itself. Oops. There we go. So I'm just going to go around and select just 2 vertex that I want to merge, and merge it, and merge it. and then after that I should have a fully merged body like that, and that was just selecting the two vertex and hitting merge. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do now is add some divisions going actual down the length of the character, round from the top of the neck down through the body and to the end of the tail. That is going to allow us then to give us our nice fat chubby curvature at the side, because at the minute he's looking a bit flat and we want him to be a bit more chubbier. So what I'm going to do is add two divisions going down the length of the body, so that I should have 10 edges going around the side, because then that'll make sense. Well, 5, but 10 for both sides, and that's going to be perfect for when we join the head to the body. So I'm going to go in and grab my insert edge tool, change it to 2, insert my edges, there we go. Now from here I can just start massaging those vertex, moving them out, trying to get the shape into my character. You can go vertex by vertex if you want, or you can go grab groups of vertex. Obviously just take your time, just making sure that you can get everything looking good and the right sort of feel for the character. We don't want him too blocky. We're trying to get him as soft as possible within the confines of the poly count. So here I'm just going through and just grabbing edges, moving into place. Anything down the middle that needs a bit of work, I can do that now. And you can see very quickly that the character starts to really take shape, just after removing a few vertex. Cool. So I'm just going to kind of speed the video up now and finish off modelling, finish off just doing this section, and then I'm going to show you some other little cool tricks to get some more curvature into the body. Okay, so it did take long, but just softening it out a little bit more. What we have got is the back and the stomach are just a little bit still sharp. The angle here is completely flat and the angle here is completely flat. So we're just going to change that, and we're going to do that. We're going to kind of alter that by using a very cool tool called the slide tool, or the edge slide tool. Now, I don't think we've used it in previous module or previous assignments, but if we go to the top of our Maya here, we've got this little Hubbard cube, which is our modeling toolkit menu. Now we get this menu, and if we look here, we've got transform constraint, and then click down there, we've got edge slide and surface slide. And if we just click on the edge slide, what that does is, so I've just selected two vertex there, and I'm just going to move them down, and if I have this turned off and I move it down, then you can see it's moving down in the y-axis, and it's giving us this horrible shape. If I turn transform constraint on to edge slide and I move down the exact same way, you can see there that it kind of constrains itself to the edge, and it slides down across that edge. Doesn't really destroy your form unless you're really kind of forcing it, but then it really helps us to get a really nice soft feature to our character. So I'm just going to go down and do it on the tail. So I'm moving it down, then moving it in a little bit. There you go. And I can do it at the neck just to kind of get out that sharpness to the neck. So I'll move that down and move it in. Yeah, looks very cool. One thing that's very cool about this, and I'll demonstrate it down here, is I've got a line of vertex selected, and the distance from this vertex to its like sibling compared to this vertex and its sibling is a lot different, very different. This is a shorter distance here, a longer distance here. Now if I just start moving these up, what's very cool is they actually meet the destination at the exact same time. So it's not like this one on the left, upper left, is going to hit its destination quicker than the one on the bottom right, but they just kind of get to their own destination at the same time. So you're not actually ruining any relative distances from each other. It will always maintain relative distance, which is very, very cool, and also very, very important. Oh, spillage. So, same thing as like I've done with the top. I'm just going to bring it up and then bring it in like that, just to give myself a nice little roundness down there, and do this on here. So bring it in and bring it up. There we go. Needs nice, 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 nice. And then just finish off by doing the exact same thing in the neck. Make sure I'm not grabbing any vertex I'm not meant to. Yeah. And then there we go. I accidentally moved that one. Those two that I wasn't supposed to, so I said that back. So I had two that I didn't. Okay. So yeah, I had two I wasn't meant to have selected. There we go. So that's the edge slide constraint function. This is very cool. So now if we look at our character, he's looking a bit more rounder, looking a bit more softer. And in fact, at this stage, I'll need to do a save. I should have been doing those a lot more. So by this point, I would have been asking you guys to do like your 4th save or something like that. Always remember your saves. Can't stress it enough. I've been doing this for, especially making dinosaurs, for so long, that it kind of always slips my mind. Okay, so we're done with the body. The body's now done. Now we're going to move on to the legs. So we're going to do the legs and then the arm, and then we're going to do the head, and then we're going to do the claws and the feet. The claws on both the hands and the feet. Okay. So, doing the legs, what I'm looking for on the side of my model is basically a group of 4 faces which more or less lie over my main sort of point where my big hind leg is. Looking for this stage here. Because I'm going to basically outline, using this vertex, turn off edge slide, as you know, leave edge slide on for this. I'm just going to just trace an outline of my leg, or where I want to put, where I'm going to have my leg come out of, like that. Not actually perfect, but I'm just looking for a point to bring my leg out of. So for me, it's these 4 faces. And it should be really for you. Just if you're following closely, it should be 4 for you as well. So I'm looking for this 4 face group here. Now with that selected, make sure I'm going to turn off transform constraint. I'm going to extrude out from here. So with those 4 faces selected, I'm going to hit extrude and just drag it out. Because those are now going to be our actual sort of legs for our character. Cool. I can go through the front view to see how we're looking. We're looking okay. Pardon me, just do some fine adjustments. Like that. Nice. Nice. Okay. Now, this is where it gets a little bit weird, and again I just need you to pay attention of what I'm actually doing. This group, this box we've just pulled out, I'm going to use these 2 bottom faces to extrude from, to start making like the fatty knee section of that hind leg. So I'll get inside view, turning on X-ray, I'm going to extrude down, down, and then the center edge, or the center group of vertex here, I'm going to make that my actual knee section there. This front one is going to be back here. It's going to be my, maybe do a bit of tweaking. So I'll actually come back and do some tweaking around here in a bit. Back to the knee. So this front vertex group is going to be just here, outlining my sort of, I don't know, my thigh section. And this vertex at the very back is going to come down to here. So almost tracing this sort of fold line we've got going on here. Okay. Okay, so here I can just start to make a couple of tweaks. Just make sure that my form isn't too bad. Yeah. I mean, I could do this for hours, but I'm not gonna. Right, so this bit I've extruded down here, this new little wedge, I'm going to grab the very back face that got brought out, this one here. So from this box that was brought out, I'm going to grab this face at the back, and I'm just going to extrude it backwards to here. Now this bottom right vertex group can be just brought to about here, and this top right vertex group can just be brought to about there. So that's going to act as like my heel of my character. Again, we're not afforded the amount of topology that can, or the amount of geometry that can get us these nice folds in there. We can get those through in our texturing. We're just trying to make a really nice low poly character first, and that's all we're doing. So now from this little stub we brought out, I'm going to grab the bottom face there, and I'm going to extrude that down to here. Bring it all the way down, and I'm just going to do just a quick outline of there. So I'm kind of just bringing it back behind these folds, like there. So now I've got this shape going on, which I can just finesse a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to add 3 divisions going down this new leg section I've made. And that's just going to be there to give me a bit more curvature, because the legs are a little bit blocky, and legs are, you know, you kind of have to have a bit of information in the legs to make them readable. That's all I need. That's perfect. So now if you zoom out and turn off X-ray, we can see that we've got that shape, which is great. Maybe just bring out this bottom section here just to fan it out a little bit. Yeah. Nice. The only thing to do on this now is just to grab that new face at the very bottom and extrude it out to here. And that's just going to basically give us a nice little bend on our leg that we can then put the claws in later on. Now from the top, my leg is still a little bit blocky. So I can go in there now and just start moving stuff. So I've now got such a drastic angle. I can start to just soften it out. Like that. Nothing much. Ooh, I need to bring that in there, that's a little bit weird. And bring you in. So at this stage I'm just going around and just checking everything's looking okay. And I'm happy enough with stuff, which I am. Cool. That's fine. Okay. Now, like I said before, I'm just going to have to do a little bit of tweaking around here. So I can do that by using my edge slide, in fact. Because I've got a lot of clumped geometry here. It's very clumpy. There's a lot of edges up here. And then it just gets very wide and very open around here. So I'm going to kind of just medicate that a little bit. I can do that using my edge slide, like I said. Just going, selecting that edge and moving it back. And bringing this one, moving it back a little bit. Moving that up. Just trying to regulate the spacing a bit more, so it's much more even. I say it's about right. Now I can just turn that off and start to trace my geometry again, so I'm not losing anything out. Okay, that's looking cool. Cool. Just fix that. Nice. So like I said, I could go tweaking on this for a long time. No doubt in class I'll kind of burn through this quite quickly. So, okay, so now it's time to make my arms. And the arms can be a little bit funny, because they're a bit weird, at least at this level. They'll be very, very low poly. They will literally just be a four-sided shape that's going to be coming out of this area here. And just like I did with the leg, what I'm looking for is a polygon, in this case, that my arm can attach into. So looking at my topology, this polygon here covers where my actual arm will inset into my body. So just for now, I'm going to extrude and then just use the offset to bring it in a little bit, and then just move it into place. I just need to get a very kind of broad idea about where the hole is, because then I can solve that later on. Okay. So for now, that's fine. So I'm just going to grab a cube once again, and I'm just going to kind of start to shape out the arm, just like I've done with everything so far. Grabbing the front end, bringing it down to about where the wrist is, and taking this back end and bringing it back to the elbow, and then just kind of slanting it, because I'm going to be bringing a face out with this end face upwards to make the top of the arm. And then just bring that so it kind of shapes that a bit better. There we go. Bring it out to the side a bit more. Okay, yep, that's cool. So, taking this face at the very back and bringing it up. Like that, flying it out. Okay, so that's going to be our arm. And then the face at the very end where our wrist is, I'm going to bring that out as well, just to the end of the hand shape on the image, like that. And then I'm going to extrude down from that new face. So it's a little bit like how we made the leg, but because of like the size of our character and, you know, the kind of limitations that we would have imposed on us by like the engine or whatever, we don't need super crazy geometry in this character. He's going to be running around doing nothing, so we just need a general shape. And that's all I'm making, just a general shape. So now I can start to think about attaching my arm to my body. So I'm just going to grab my arm on its own, and I'm just going to rotate it out a little bit. I'm not going to rotate it out like that. I'm just going to rotate it out a little bit, just a tiny bit, and then rotate it in a little bit. Just move it down, because it's going to attach to this armhole here. So I just want to give myself enough kind of. I want to alleviate any stress that might be on the geometry here. Cool. So now I'm actually going to start to attach my arm to my body. So I'm going to grab both my arm and body, combine them. Obviously I lose my other side, so duplicate that over. There we go. This face that we extruded in before, where the armhole was, I'm going to actually delete that, and also delete the face at the top of my arm that I've made. And I'm going to go around now and bridge my arm to my body. So there we go. And then I can do a little bit of massaging of Vertex just to get that shape looking a bit nicer. But for laying in the arms, that's it. That's all we need. Maybe just move it in a little bit, so his arms aren't poking out as much. Yeah, that's all we need. Nice, so the arms are in, the legs are in, the bodies in. So we can do a save. Again, I'm only on my 3rd save here, but I would like you guys to have much more saves than that for now, by now, just in case anything was to happen. Okay, so we're going to start making the head now. And one thing I'm going to do is just make a couple of tweaks first. There we go. Is maybe just adding an eye, just to give myself a bit of a landmarking. So I'm going to make the eye and turn it down to something like an 8 or a 12, something nice and low poly. Let's go 8. Nice little low poly eye. Now, with eyes, we want to use this end to kind of act as our pupil, because it does give you a forward momentum, it does give you a forward direction for your eye, but then it'll also help us when we come to unwrap this, so we're not unwrapping this and trying to paint an eye on it. So I'm just going to put that eye in a rough area. There we go. And then I can put my transfer on the bottom of the world. I'm doing the D and V thing, but instead of holding V, I'm holding X. So D and X will snap that to the grid, because X is, if we look up here, snap to grid. And then I can do my duplicate special. Oh. Okay, so that's a good chance to actually show you this. I've got all this information here, like rotation scale. We need to reset all this back to 0 and 1. Okay, so with this, because if I don't, then even though my settings are the same and correct inside my duplicate special, it's not going to duplicate it properly for me, because it's using this information to influence it. So I'm going to go into edit, duplicate special, no sorry, I'm talking about edit, delete by type, and history. So there's nothing underneath here, and I'm also going to go to modify and then freeze transformation, and then there's nothing there. So now when I do my duplicate special, boom, both my eyes come in. Very cool. And I might just rotate that out a little bit. There you go. Cool. Combine those two. No, I'll leave them separate. So now I'm going to put those in their own layer so they don't get in my way. I'm going to go select them both, and then inside your channel box at the very bottom you've got display, render and anim. I'm going to go to display, layers, and then create layer from selected. So now I can actually hide my layer. I can hide my eyes whenever I don't need them. So for now I'm just going to turn them off. In my side view, I'm going to make a cube. Shock horror. Make sure my translate is set to 0. I'm going to bring the front of the cube, or the left side of the cube, forward, and on X-ray, and I'm going to do the right side of the cube backwards. And this right side is obviously going to act as my head, or the back of my head, and the left side is going to act as my front. So I'm going to bring my geometry, so my top left is, somewhere around here, and my bottom left is at the bottom where this little apex is, between the lip and the mouth, I guess. And my top right is going to be just behind the eye. Maybe there's like a little indentation there. Maybe put it there. And the bottom right, is going to be basically in line with the jaw, like that. So now a bit higher up, a bit there. Yeah. Cool. So now I'm going to split the head in half, like this. So this gives us a line that we can use to separate the front half of the head, where the muzzle is, and the back half of the head, where the eyes is, and the ears, and the neck. Because it's only the back half which is going to get connected to the body. The front half is going to be just consisting of the nose and this upper jaw section. Cool. So I can go split the entire head in half, delete one side. Even at this stage I think I'd go in and just bring the very top half of the head in a little bit, because again I'm going for this triangle kind of feel. Cool. Right, so just like I've done down in the body, I'm going to put 3 divisions going down the front of the head where the muzzle is. So boom, and then just like before, I can make very big gestural shapes with that. And then at the bottom I can outline the jaw like that. Very cool. And at the back I'm going to add 2, and I need to, for the right number to be connecting to the neck to the head, I need it to be 2 edges going down here. So 1 and 2. And then I can just, I'm not going to trace this upper eyelid, just eyebrow shape. I'm going to trace what I think his head will look like underneath, because these sections are going to be raised ridges, so I'm not going to go as high as that. And I can just leave these 2 as they are at the minute. I'm going to add 2 edges going down the middle across the head like that. That'll just give me enough information just to shape here as well. I start getting myself looking a bit softer. Start moving around these vertex, taking any really harsh angles out, seeing if I can apply as much sort of softness to the character as I can. Nice, good. Cool. If I bounce over a duplicate special, that's what our head's looking like at the minute. So just like I've done with the body, I'm going to grab these center lines I've just made and start to fatten out this character, or in the case of the back of the head, thin it out. So let's go for the front of the muzzle. I'm just going to start grabbing vertex and bringing them out. Ooh, make sure I don't select stuff I don't want to grab. Oh, I'm grabbing things I don't want to do. There we go. And bring them out. Now I think this character should have a very, very fat muzzle, because that's part of his characteristic. He's a very, you know, chubby puppy dinosaur, if they even had a name. A nice big fat front. And then at the back I want it to be a bit thinner. A bit smaller. A bit more like that. Okay. And so just spend a bit of time getting the character looking cool. I could use my edge slide to do this. Just going around and just again, just like we've done with the body, just softening out some of those lines. Cool, because so you can spend a bit of time just working on that a little bit more and making sure you got the shape that you want. For now I'm going to leave it like that, because the next stage will probably allow me to see certain things I'm not particularly seeing at this stage, because I'm going to start to actually make the lower jaw and then connect it to the head. And this is why I needed to have that center line, because everything to the left of this line is the front of the muzzle. Everything behind it is going to be part of the head, and I'm looking at these 3 faces at the bottom. Oh, I've got a bit of a wandering vertex there, sort that out. There you go. Yeah, I'm looking at these 3 faces. 6 because I've got this duplicate special turned on, but I'm looking at these 3 faces in the middle. And these will become this section of my lower jaw. So if I just extrude those out and bring them down. I'm going to get this like wedge. Oh, turn off transform to straight edge slide. Move that down, and that's going to create my wedge for my jaw and the beginning part of the back of my neck. Start to angle these towards where I want them to go. There we go. So now I've got this wedge coming out the bottom of my neck. I can start to make my jaw by grabbing this front new face here and just bringing it out and bringing it down. Turning on my X-ray. I'm going to bring it down to here. And then I'm just going to add 2 divisions going down this shape I've just brought out now, just to give myself a bit of softness. Like that. Nice. And then just go in and shape my jaw a bit more. Cool. So now, just like with these before, with these 3 faces, I'm actually going to delete those now. But one thing that we have got inside, because we had a duplicated special head with a hollow back, when we've extruded down to make the bottom jaw and to make the jaw itself, we've given ourselves faces on the inside. So we just got to make sure to take those away, because we're extruding down from an edge. So I'll demonstrate with this edge here. This edge has 4, well, this face has 4 edges to it, and when I extrude, a face gets created on each one of those edges. So that's what happened here. So I'm just going to have to make sure to take those away, because then that'll cause us issues later on if we don't. So we should have this hole at the back of our head now, and if you followed what I've been doing and you've been careful and paid attention, what we have now is at the base of our skull we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges going around, and at the top of our neck we've got the same 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges going around. So we can now do a direct just bridge between the head and the neck area, and then that's our whole sort of main form done. A few little things I have to do first, because see our head's not quite as the right shape, or maybe our neck isn't quite the right shape. So I'm just going to have to go in there and, however you want to do it, just kind of like make sure that these can actually look nice when they start getting merged to each other. But say I've done that, and I'm going to combine these two, because obviously I need to combine the bridge. Can't bridge between 2 foreign objects. And then I can just go around and start bridging. Like that. And now that's our head and our body connected into one. Nice. And I can just do my duplicate special again. And I'm going to do a save. So now our eyes brought in, he looks a bit funny, so I can just tell I need to do a little bit more work around here. But first, actually, what I'm going to do is make his eyebrows, and they're super simple to make, because all I'm going to do is extrude from these 3 faces here. I'm just going to extrude out to make kind of like a chunk, like that. I'm just going to make this sort of shape at first. And then I'm just going to move these vertex and faces around and edges so that I've got a bit of a softer form, but you still get the sort of like this bulgy, kind of angry eyebrow quality going on. Cool, could you just spend a bit more time on that, just make sure it looks good. I'm definitely going to move my eyes because it looks bug-eyed. That's probably what's throwing me off, to be honest. Yeah, that's a bit better. Now, one thing that I should, well, I probably said it at some point during the year, is that when you're modelling, you're looking at a character and you're looking at all the different edge loops and wires and faces and polygons and vertex and all that stuff. You're going to very quickly see things that don't necessarily exist. Like, especially when you first start off, it's very hard to see past the technical aspects of stuff, and oh, this looks really bad, and oh, you know, you're worrying that it's going to just look really rubbish. As soon as you start putting textures onto stuff, a lot of this information disappears because the player won't see it, the audience won't see it. All we're doing here is just getting a very basic shape in there to then give ourselves some texture. Plus, this guy's going to be like this big if we were to see him, so we'll just see this little thing running about. But this is looking fine. Cool. So one thing I can do is just add a nose as well. Bringing the face off, then bringing the front of the nose in to actually make the actual nostril, which I think is quite fun. And then if you want to take away some of this blockiness, you can add a loop around the middle there. Oh, there you go. And then you can just grab it and move it about. If you've already got that. Oh, so. There you go. And that's just a nice way for us to make another bit of, you know, visual interest for the character without kind of going crazy with the geometry. Cool. Now what I'm going to do as well is everything's a little bit blocky because I've been like cutting edges, adding edge loops in. We're getting a lot of this faceted faces or this blocky facing everywhere. I'm going to go in and select both my eyes and my nose, go up to mesh display and then down to soften edge, and that'll soften everything out. Now these black areas here, that's just where Maya is not liking rendering. That doesn't mean that your model's rubbish or the geometry is rubbish. It just means that it's got an angle which, using the default light in the viewport, it's just struggling to render. We don't have to worry about that. Okay. So you can go through and fix up the character a bit more if you want to. Any sort of edges you want to kind of smooth out, or any sort of like features you want to try and just get in a little bit more. Spend a bit of time doing that. But now we're getting very close to the end, so I'm going to do just bringing in the fingers and bringing in the claws. That's all we're going to do. So I'm going to do the claws first because those are super easy to do. I'm just going to grab our hand. Just make it a bit more straight. Oh. So make sure I'm grabbing always what I'm meant to be grabbing. There we go. So I know I've said in the past that we should avoid triangles. In some cases triangles are unavoidable, and in this case, to do what I want us to do, it is unavoidable. At least the way I'm doing it anyway. So what I'm going to be doing is using the multi-cut tool, which is our little scalpel with this orange line, and I'm going to be making some triangles on my hand just to kind of like cut this surface in half so I can bring two claws out of it. And I'm just going to grab the multi-cut and cut along. Right, so I'm holding shift in some parts of these to get a, so I'll do that again. I'm going to click and drag into one of the corners, and then for the next one, which is going to be this line here, I'm going to hold shift and then lay one in on the actual line. If I hold shift, that gives me 10% increments along the surface, along that edge. So I'm just going to find 50%, because obviously that's halfway, and then I'm going to bring it back into the hand there. So I'm kind of making this shape running around the hand. Cool. So now from here I can just grab these two bottom faces that I've created, hit extrude, and this is very cool. Normally we've just been extruding one face on its own, so even though there's two faces selected, it comes out in one big group. Right, so if the offset, you can see there it's all one big group. Now if I go down to keep faces together and turn that off, there we go. It now treats each one of those faces as its individual own personal extrusion. So now I can just get my two claws in there, tweak the offset a little bit. Oh, so I'm going to have to manually input some numbers. There we go, nice and thick. And then do another extrusion, and then I've got two individual claws like that, which is very cool. Very cool. So now I can go in and, however you want to do it, you can make yourself some nice claws. I'm just going to grab the bottom, make it a bit thinner. I'm just going to make my claws like this. So, you know, some of you might be thinking, wow Dave, those are kind of blocky looking. That's fine, that's all we want. We want just really light, nice low poly, simple cartoony claws. Again, if this was in Warcraft or something, and this is one of the critters that roam around, it wouldn't be, this is probably higher than their geometry is. We're just here to make a creature that can live inside one of those worlds and populate it and run around and even become like a little pet for the player to have. So that's my two front claws. Now for the bottom claws, obviously they're a little bit bigger and they're coming out of a bigger surface. So one thing we're going to have to do first is just make sure that we can have enough actual surface to bring these claws out of. So I'm going to grab that bottom front face and just extrude it out, not extrude, scale it out just so it's a little bit wider, like that. And just make sure that it's not so janky, so bring that bit out a little bit and bring that bit out a little bit. There we go. Cool. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing as I've done with the claws, but just on a bit of a bigger scale. So I'm going to make my first incision there, then 50%, 50%, 50%, 50%, and then bring it back in to behind the foot. Oh, to behind the foot. Keeps wanting to grab that. To behind the foot. There we go. So now I'm making that shape. Cool. And now I'm just going to do the exact same thing. Extrude in, keep faces off, put my offset as something maybe 0.1. There we go. Cool. Now we're again going to be making some triangles. I'll not take them off yet. We're going to be making some triangles inside these new faces as well we've just made. So you know, we are kind of breaking from the things I was saying not to do at the beginning a little bit, but it's just for this character. It's fine. The higher the resolution of the character, the less this will happen. So I'm going to make a 8-sided shape going into this because I want my claw to have a bit more information about it than my small claws, because they're only 4-sided shapes because they're so small. But these, they're a bit bigger, so I want them to be a bit more smoother. So I'm just going to make a cube, and I'm going to make both claws out of this one cube. And I'm just going to make a cube, and then just make a very basic claw shape out of it, something like that. Make sure I can turn view wireframe on, be very useful. you go. There you go. And now I'm going to just take this end face off. So this face is gone. I'm going to leave, just like with the tail, I'm going to leave this face still there. But we'll take that face away, and I'm going to not extrude, sorry. I'm going to hit smooth, which is this tool here. Hit smooth on that, that'll give us this shape. And now all I have to do is just reshape, because obviously because we've done a bit of smooth, we do lose the shape of our object. So I'm just going to have to bring that back. And then just bring all that information back. Okay, and then I'm going to move that back into place and duplicate it, and then move one off to the side, and then make this one a little bit smaller, because obviously our bigger toe is on the inside for stability. So I'm just going to make this one a bit smaller and then a bit bigger. Cool. Make that a bit sharper at the front. So now this is where it gets a little bit weird. I'm gonna move that away first actually. So that's my toes. I'm gonna take this foot, this leg, and I'm gonna delete these two center faces here, because obviously we're gonna be merging these into that foot. Now I'm gonna actually make a load of triangles inside these little insets, these little frames we've got here. I'm gonna make triangles inside there because I want to have another edge across, another vertex across each one of these edges going round. But to do that, then that'll mean me kind of sending, normally would have me sending edge flows around places and stuff that I don't really want to be doing, or I don't want you guys to be doing in this. I want you to kind of struggle a little bit with this, just to make it work. Intentional, of course. And that's again using our multi-cut tool. I'm just going to add my first one in the middle here. The middle, kind of like in between the toes. So I'm just going to hold shift and then click, click, click to make a 50%. Right, so this is where it gets weird. I'm going to click and drag into one of these upper corners and then click into somewhere around the middle. Doesn't have to be 50%. Somewhere around the middle here of the inner edge, and then back up to the corner there, and then do the same thing down here. I'm going to click, drag to one of the corners, click to somewhere in the middle, and then click, drag into one of the corners. Click, click, drag into one of the corners, click to somewhere in the middle, click, drag to one of the corners. And just go around and do that for every one of the edges. There we go. So now around each one of these edges we've got 8 edges. I know it says 16 there, but that's only because it's grabbing the other set as well. But with that, we can now start to merge those to our 8-sided shapes and our claws. So I can grab these two, combine them, bring this up, pivot point back, go back. There you go. And I'm giving myself a little bit of space. I'm not bringing them all the way up to the foot because I want to mimic a little bit of flesh. And I'm going to grab my main leg now, go to vertex mode, and you can see we've got these purple dots going around the sides of these new vertex. I'm going to grab them and I'm just going to start snapping them. So here's what I'm doing, I'm grabbing them, go into my translate function, W, holding V, you can see there that up here is now our snap magnet and then our vertex magnet, and then you can see there that it's also turning into a circle, which means it's a snap function has been activated. I can drag them to each one of the corners, going around. So this one in the middle, what I'm going to do is just grab all three of them and just move them off to the side a little bit, and then there we go. And then do the same for the smaller foot, for the smaller toe. Now this will look ugly at first, but it's fine. Here we go. Here we go. And you can see there, obviously, because we've got the duplicate special, it's also mimicking on the other side. So what I'm going to do now is just put these in the center of the world, do the D and X, make sure the freeze transformation and history are deleted, and then flip them over. Should be in the right place. So now I'm going to combine my big toes to my body and merge. There you go. And then I can go around and just fix anything that's really bugging me, any edges that are just kind of really offending me. I can go in and fix them. But geometrically, that is now FRIP, fully constructed, ready to be unwrapped. I mean, there's things you can also do to this if you really wanted to. You could make an internal part of the mouth where you would extrude and lift this inner section up and down to make like little cavities for the mouth, if you really wanted to. But again, because it's such a low poly character, there's every chance that you just be a flat surface there. I think on my final one I will make a little indentation, so I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I'm going to make a little inner part of the mouth here, by extruding, bringing the offset in, lifting it up, and taking away these faces, because that obviously we've just created like a line of faces on the internal part which we don't want. Take them away and then just snap these new edges to the center. Like that. Oop, like that. So now our character's got like a nice little inner part of the mouth. You could also do the same thing for the lower part. And if you really want to, you can give him a tongue. So I'm just going to do my duplicate special again, and for the most part, well no, that's him done. That's Fripp done and ready to be taken to unwrapping. I don't think I've overlooked anything. Cool. So in the next video we'll be just doing a quick unwrap, and like I said, probably won't do a texturing video because I'll be going through over that in class. But the next video will be unwrapping him, and it's super simple. Cool.